The Scott McTominay who plays for Scotland is an absolute hero, a leader, a tireless battling midfielder who crushes the bones of his enemies and then crashes the box to score crucial goals. In fact, did you know that he scored 7 goals in Euro 2024 qualifying, which is the 5th most of any player? The only players above him are Lukaku, Ronaldo, Mbappe, Harry Kane, and also Rasmus Højlund, which would make him the 6th. But I'm saying 5th. But if we include that free kick that was disallowed that he scored from the side of the box, then he would be the same, 5th. Ignore the maths, doesn't matter. Scott McTominay is scoring goals for Scotland. And he started doing it for Man United too. But McTominay is a ball-winning midfielder in our minds. Perhaps we need to change our perception of what he really is and work out what the best position for him would be at Man United if Erik ten Hag does what Steve Clarke does. Now, we knew that McTominay was a good player or very well respected at Man United a long time ago because Jose Mourinho was constantly telling us. In fact, back in 2019 when he was the United manager, he said of Scott McTominay, he is a kid with a special character, very humble, aggressive in a positive way, brave, he's a special kid. He's a special character that a team in negative moments needs. Do my other players have that mentality? Not all of them. Hot diggity dog, some cutting words from Jose Mourinho there. But the things to remember from that quote are that he's praising his aggressive mentality, really important for a player at Man United. Also his tactical discipline, another thing that's very important. Because Scott McTominay might not have the technical quality of many midfielders, but he has this great mental ability that makes him stand out. And statistics let us see what sort of a player he is. This is his FB Ref profile. Now what you'll notice here is he doesn't do a lot of progressive passes, he doesn't do a lot of shot creating actions because he's not very the best at those sorts of things. What he is good at is carrying the ball, winning it back, and doing the stuff you need, the mental attributes that are essential to a midfielder. Now the progressive passing numbers are relevant because he's a midfielder, right? So he has to be in this sort of position here to be able to receive the ball and turn and pass and move it. And that's not really what he's best at. And a lot of people have said in the past about McTominay that he tends to hide and build up. I think I've said it before actually. And what we mean by that is that when they're trying to build out from the back like here, you might want a player here so you can maybe play a wall pass or just be able to take it in the half turn and then try and play forward. What McTominay often does for some reason is he stands the south side of the defending player. So if Man United are building out from here, he might be this side, so obviously you can't get the ball to him. But I think he does this because he's trying to bring players out of the way so that the person who is actually good on the ball, say Fernandes, can then come into space to free that up. That might be one reason he's doing that. It might also be that he's just not the kind of player who should be taking the ball in the half turn and moving with it because he's better at carrying it, not distributing it. So either he's being clever or he's not seeing the space and where to go and pick the ball up. I think he probably does know what he's doing. But we know from the past that McTominay's passing isn't the most progressive. You see it in the stats as well. In fact, there's an old graph we've got here. We've done this in Tifo IRL a few times. This is how McTominay and Fred used to play together, like crabs. Side to side, rarely going forward because McTominay tends to carry it. And this is the problem in how Man United were building up. They just weren't able to get the ball forward when McTominay is one in the midfield too. Now, really good players in these pivot positions can do that, but McTominay is not Busquets and doesn't need to be. He's a different kind of player. Another thing we see from McTominay is when he does get the ball, the few times he does make passes that are progressive or forward, he does it in the final third and gets them into the box. This graph shows you percentage of passes into the final third, and McTominay, more than any other player in Europe this season, moving the ball into the attacking third with a higher proportion of passes. So he's making few passes per game, but a lot of them are going forward. So you probably don't want McTominay here in build-up, you probably want him more up here, because that's where he can crash the box. And when we look at the statistics, we learn even more about McTominay, because by golly gosh, wouldn't you know it, only 9 Premier League midfielders since the start of last season have recorded a higher XG per game as a midfielder, you see. So McTominay is getting a lot of chances to score, and they tend to be really high value chances because this is from 1.2 shots per game on average as well. So basically what all these numbers mean is that when McTominay gets a chance, it tends to be a big chance. So his timing of runs into these crucial high value areas is very good. But his lack of technical quality in passing is relevant because he's a midfielder, and you can only carry the ball into space if there's space to run into. So maybe he's not best as a midfielder, but you still want to get him in the team somehow. And because of how he looks, he's tall, strong, and a battler, some people have thought he's a centre-back in the past. He's played there for Scotland. But he's not. You're getting fooled by how he looks. Take the skeleton, for example. Now you might think the skeleton is very spooky because he plays his ribs like xylophones at night. But he's not spooky, he's a lovely skeleton and wants to be your friend. Just like McTominay is not a central defender, he's an attacking midfielder who crashes the box. Don't be fooled by what you see, because this is what he was doing in this centre-back role here, and it makes sense because you can carry the ball out when you've got it, that kind of helps, and you can work next to 2 big lads at the back to try and defend the box. But being a centre-back means you have to perfect all the things that being a centre-back is, and McTominay hasn't got that. Timing of jumps, marking someone, handing over a runner in the box. He's not perfected that, and it's not going to make you get the best defender out of him, nor are you going to get all the stuff he's good at, which is being at the top of the pitch. And so what Steve Clarke has done to get the maximum out of McTominay is move him closer to the striker so he can make these box runs. Then he puts John McGinn or Marcus Rashford in this example back there. Then you put the centre back into this position here. So you've got back three with a 2, and then you've got normally these two here either side. So it's either a 5-2-2-1 or a 5-1-2-2, whatever you want to have, but you get McTominay and you get McGinn crashing the box that way. So you're utilising all the best parts of these players. But Man United can't do this because Bruno Fernandes is the 10. He has to play there. But not if you do this. And you have Christian Eriksen as a deep line playmaker who can be the one who receives the ball from the back. And then McTominay pushes up, Fernandes goes here, and you play basically a front four, well, a midfield 4 behind the forward. And that way you get McTominay crashing the box. Fernandes can drop a little bit deeper to then be able to ping the passes like he's done. And that's getting the most out of Fernandes and also making use of McTominay's box crashing skills. Now, Erik ten Hag's a lot of injuries to deal with this season, so the team hasn't always been exactly what he wants it to be. But with McTominay in the team, do you know what happens? Well, I went and did the digging and found the statistics, and look at this. With McTominay, they win lots of games. Without him, they win none points per game. Scott McTominay is essential to Man United. And so I went back even further to see if this checks out for longer periods of time, to see how important Scott McTominay is. And guess what? It's sort of not that much different, but you see what we get here? A 62.5% win percent with McTominay and a 57% without. Conclusive proof then, almost, that he's very, very essential since, well, last season. And then I went even further back to see what happens, and it kind of balances out, so I don't think we can read too much into this really. This is the Premier League since the start of August 2018, a number I just picked for random. And there you get 1.8 points per game with McTominay, 1.7 without. So it's not really necessary to have him in the team, but if you play him as a box crasher, which he never normally is, maybe you get more. And then I thought, well, that's the Premier League. The Premier League's easy. No problem there. How about the Champions League where the real champions play? They're all champions in the Champions League. Now, what you get here is a shocking stat. Look, 43.8% win percent, 1.4 points per game versus 1.3, 33% win percentage. We know that McTominay is essential to Man United in the Champions League. You can't win the Champions League without McTominay. And so conclusive proof there that Scott McTominay is really important to Man United. You got to play him. You don't have to play him. He is very good though, right? So for Scotland, he gets loads of goals and is very important because he doesn't have to do the same things he does in the Premier League. He doesn't have to drop deep and be part of deep build-up. That's not his game. He's better at being in these positions, carrying the ball past people and arriving in the box. So when you get these sorts of crosses from wide, McTominay is the guy who crashes in at the last minute to score the goal. And when there's a rebound in the box, he's tall, he can make use of that sort of stuff. That's his best position. You're just thinking of him all wrong because he looks like a centre-back, but he's not a centre-back. He's basically a sort of more dynamic version of what Marouane Fellaini was doing for Man United. Really, really useful squad player. But as we saw at the start of the video we were watching here, I'm in it, you're watching, what you get at the start of the video was that McTominay's mental attributes are what makes him really important. Because it's all well and good being a good technical player, but when the chips are down, what you need is a battling skeleton to come along, give you peace and love, but also crush the bones of your enemies!
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Daniel Taylor, Ollie Kay, Amy Lawrence and Rafa Honigstein. With the latest transfer news and insight on every Premier League football story that matters, theathletic.com puts you inside football. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.